Good morning, Rabbi. I can't believe what I just heard. Shmuley Lemmer. I don't know how old he is. He's from Kensington. I don't know. Let's say he's 15, 16 years old. He just drove in from the mountains to Kensington so that he could watch the Siyum and be by the Siyum, and he's going right back to camp. That's incredible, Rabbi Isai. Great to see you, Shmuley. Today's shir is being sponsored by Osher Amer. For Yitzchak Isaac ben Rosa, Shmuel Elia ben Rosa, Gittel bas Rosa, Osher ben Rosa, Esther Sheni bas Rosa, and Yocheved bas Rosa. For the success, Parnusa, Shidichim, and health. That's what it says here, Shidichim and Parnusas. He's a Hasidic Ingeman, you'll see him. What's very interesting, and this is the whole point of tonight's Siyum, is to get to know our Chaverim, our Mishpacha, and you're going to get to see who Asher is. You'll see in the video, say, oh, that's Asher Amer. And health with you and all your team with great success to the whole Klal Yisrael Umain. This is, I don't have my other printer broke, so it's two things on one page. Gilsum Bat Rina, this is from Harry Shalom. What is that? I don't know. Refuah Shlema? I don't know. Gilsum Bat Rina. Next. Ooh, this one is out of place. Hold on. You got to do something here. Tech team will come and set this up for me. Woo! All right. Anonymously, for Atzlacha in Parnasa, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu let me be able to make Aliyah. Amen. For continued Atzlacha to Reb Eli and the whole crew. Amen. So 4 sponsors today. This goes right over here. Real quickly, seems fast approaching. Exciting stuff. Tonight in Eretz Yisrael. This afternoon in America and around the world, over 100 different locations. Some of them have 50 plus people, some of them one, like in Stockholm, Sweden, just one person, Stephen. We have over 107 video clips. Rabbi Yisai, that means it's a lot of time. I didn't realize how long it is. It's over 3 hours, the program. You could do as you wish. You could shut it off, turn it on later, watch the rest on YouTube. Do whatever you want. I'm just telling you, this is the program. We're going to come out with the program. I know. It's difficult to hear. Now, I was supposed to speak all the way at the end. They might move me into a different slot somewhere in the middle. I was supposed to do the Siyum, but Baruch Hashem, somebody bought up the Siyum, and we were able to convince him to actually do the Siyum. So I won't have the opportunity to speak then. So we'll see. I don't really want to speak. The whole point of the Siyum is to get to know the other guys. So don't look at it as, a bunch of speeches. It's just to get to know who's Asher Amer, who's Kalman from Five Towns. You guys know who Kalman from Five Towns is, what he looks like, how he is. It's just a schmack to see all our Chaveri. We're going to hear live from Eli Dykman. Eli, you're speaking? Somebody's speaking by you guys. Only 6-7 live speeches, etc. Okay, so be there. Don't forget to change your names on the Zoom on the bottom. Rabbi Isai, I was pushing off this email for a long time because every time I read it, I cry. And I'm hoping I'm not going to cry now. I read it a bunch of times. I'm davening, I'm not going to cry. We're going to make it through in one piece. But it's a very powerful email. I'd like to read it to you. He asked me not to say his name. Dear Rebelli, as you read Barak's email, so Barak's email was about how in school, he worked really hard to do well on a test, and they failed him by a half a point, and therefore he had to do summer camp. He missed summer camp. He had to work hard. He closed the Gemara from that point on, and it took him, I forgot how many years, 30 years, 25 years to come back and join the shir. As you read Barak's email, I thought you should know that sadly there are so many other scenarios just like this. Unfortunately, too many Rebbeim can ruin the students' lives with just a few words. It's sad to think that Nachman Seltzer could fill multiple books with these stories. And it's not just Rabbeim, it's parents. We're all guilty of this. You say one word to a kid, you don't know what you did to his life. I'm including my story below. If you decide to read it, please leave out my name so I don't need anyone to put pieces together, realize who I am, who I'm referring to, and no need to publicly shame him. In elementary school, I was never a great learner when it came to any of the Hebrew subjects. However, I always applied myself 100% my best. When I started high school at age 14, 99% of the kids came from one school, and I was the only new kid in the class. It was just a few weeks into the school, and I was still trying to find my place to fit and make friends. It was then that my Rebbe decided to give a quiz on a few pages of Gemara we learned. He said that the quiz will be given the following week on Daf Yud Omed Aleph. As I was never great with Gemara and wanted to do my best, my parents hired a Bismerish Bacher to learn and review with me. I poured my heart into it, learning daily with my new Chavrusim. By the end of the week, I felt confident that I knew the Daf cold and was ready for the test. The day the quiz arrived, I eagerly took my paper from the Rebbe, filled in my name at the top, and was ready to fill in the answers. It was then that my heart sank. I accidentally heard that the quiz was given on Daf Yud Omed Aleph, while in fact, it was on Daf Yud Aleph Omed Aleph. There were 3 questions on the quiz, and I didn't know a single answer. I tried my best, but I knew that I failed. The next day, my Rebbe came to class in a bitter mood. He said that as a whole, our class did poorly. He then lifted my test up in the air for everyone to see. It had my name written clear as day on top of the page with a big fat red 0 next to it, but to get a mark like this, he continued, you have to be a retard. It's a long email, maybe I should skip around here, but it's not such a long daf. The whole class turned and looked at me, remember my face burning red like a 0, and wanted my body to sink to my desk. At recess time, I walked home from school and told my parents I was never going back. To cut a long story short, my Rebbe was eventually forced to apologize, but I was still labeled as a retard. I never attempted to learn Gemara again, nor pass any of my Gemara tests throughout the rest of high school. Baruch Hashem, I did not go off the derech, and I'm married to a wonderful wife, 5 amazing children. You see, starting to choke up here. Only at the age of 37, due to my wife's coaxing, that I finally let go of my decades-long hatred and pure animosity towards this Rebbe. I go to Shurim occasionally and enjoy learning Parsha. I knew that Gemara wasn't for me, and therefore Daf Yomi was not something I would ever do. Sure, I was jealous of those people that did Daf and finished Shas, but I knew that's just not for me, as my Rebbe already labeled me for life. Ooh. I live in New York. I was able to attend the Rabbi said when I first read this, I cried like a baby, like out loud, in my house. Baruch Hashem, nobody was here. Second time I cried, not so loud. Third time, hopefully, I'm doing okay, no? I live in New York and was able to attend the live Daf Yomi Shurim this past year, even though it was bitter cold. I went since my father does Daf and I wanted to support him. When they asked the Milam to stand up, my father stood up and his face was beaming. He was so proud of himself, and so was I. They learning Gemara for 7.5 years, wow. At the same time, I too wanted to be able to stand up. Bekitzer, so I turned to the internet, found the solution. Baruch Hashem, I came across the Shurim and was magically hooked from day one. True, maybe I don't understand all the sugis in depth, but as you say, it's about the Yomi, not the Daf. My wife saw this new change in my renewed zeal for learning. She quickly blocked out my schedule for work from 2:15 to 3:15 Eastern Standard Time with specific instructions that I should not be disturbed. This way, I can join this shir live, and Baruch Hashem, I've been going strong. If you would have told me last year that I would soon be learning Gemara daily, I would never have believed it. But Rebelli, you make the Daf so accessible and enjoyable, where everyone is welcome and included. I cannot thank you enough, and finally, at age 40, I can proudly say that I actually am Kivei Itim Latayra. Every single day. I'm super excited about our upcoming Siyum. It took me 25 years to get past the stigma by my Rebbe labeled me with, I regret that I let him get to me and that I held him to my ear so long. I thank Hashem for letting me find Yeshir, for everyone that works hard behind the scenes. Again, I thank Hashem for letting me find Yeshir, for everyone that works hard behind the scenes, and for my parents and my wife that pushed me to learn Torah daily for the past 8 months. May you and your entire family be zeicha to unlimited brachas, both in this world and Olam Haba. Shkoyach. By the way, he's one of the 107 videos. You're not going to know who he is, but he's on there. You'll know him. Fine. Rabbi Sai, we are holding on Daf. Today's Daf Zayin. Oh, so we have to do a little review here. We're holding on the top of Daf Zayin Omid Aleph, V'boy Sema. It's the middle of the sugya, so we'll do it real quickly. Not so bad. Okay. We had a Machlokes Rav and Shmuel. What happens if you have a bent mavui? According to Rav, a bent mavui is considered mefulish. It's considered that goes through and through, and therefore you must do something serious like a tzuras haPesach in the center, in the bend. Shmuel says it's not a mefulish, it's considered as it's closed off, a dead end, and therefore, I see a couple of people wiping away tears. That's good. Therefore, if this is a dead end, you don't have to do anything. According to one Pshat and Rashi, according to another Pshat and Rashi, you put a little lechi and you go weiter. So who's machmir here? Rav. Rav is very machmir. He says you need to put a tzuras haPesach. It's considered mefulish. A bent mavo is considered mefulish. You have to put a lechi. a tzuras HaPesach. Then the Gemara comes up with another case. These are tears. My father-in-law is an ear, nose, and throat guy. He said that when you cry, they'll come out of your nose a little bit. Fine. So Nachamal, if you consider them a foolish, this is a foolish, a reshus around that goes through and through, then you have to do something serious, take drastic action. That is a tzuras HaPesach on one end and a lechi on the other end. So Rav says it's very serious. Now it comes the Gemara with another case, very similar case. It's bent, but bent twice. One bend here, one bend here. What do? So Gemara says in Arda, they did two chumras. They decided that this is considered a mefulish, like Rav. Rav is machmer, mefulish. But once it's mefulish, they jumped to Shmuel's camp, and Shmuel holds that if it's mefulish, it's not enough to do a tzuras HaPesach. You need a serious door. So they put in doors on the bends. One door here, one door here. Over here they did a lechi or kaira, lechi or kaira. So the Gemara asks, how in the world could you take two chumras? Is that allowed? Take a chumrah of Rav and say that's considered mefulish. Because according to Shmuel, it's not mefulish, you don't have to do anything. Once I say it's mefulish, then I'm going to go to Shmuel and say, okay, but Shmuel, what do you hold? If it was, theoretically, if it was mefulish, what's the halacha? Shmuel says you need doors. Oh, put doors. So now you're grabbing two chumras. So then the Gemara real quickly says that you could do, halacha is, so the Gemara brings a bright, halacha is always like Beis Hillel. But if you do like Beis Shammai, it's okay. Isn't that a contradiction? If the halacha is like Beis Hillel, you should do like Beis Hillel. So the Gemara gave two answers yesterday. One answer is before the baskel. As we're going to see later on, a baskel came out and said halacha is always like Beis Hillel. But beforehand, if you want to do like Beis Shammai, great. After the baskel, you have to go like Beis Hillel. That's answer number one. Answer number two, and that's the top of Daf Zayin Amud Aleph, is that it goes according to Rabbi Shua. There was a baskel. The baskel said halacha is always like Beis Hillel. But Rabbi Shua, in the very famous story with Tanur Achnoi, when all the Gdolim were against Rabbi Eliezer said, he argues on everybody. And he said, I'll prove it from the walls of the Beis Medrash. They started bending, the water started flowing backwards. And then a baskel came out and said, halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer. And they stood their ground. Rabbi Shua got up and said, hey, mashgichim baskel, we don't care about a baskel. Torah loy b'shamayim. We decide down here what halacha is, not HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Shamayim. Incredible. So everybody's on Rabbi Eliezer's side, besides the Chachamim in this world, and they rule. And they actually put him in Chayrim. He wouldn't back down, and they put him in Chayrim. For the rest of his life, he was nifter b'Chayrim. So the Gemara, Rabbi Yeshua is the one that holds, you don't listen to baskel. What about everybody else in our sugya? Well, everybody holds you do listen to baskel when it comes to Beis Hillel. Why? Because Beis Hillel are the majority. The reason why in that sugya in Baba Metzia we don't listen to baskel is because Rabbi Eliezer was a single person. He's a minority. So you don't listen to baskel when it comes. The baskel says listen to the minority against the majority. The halacha is you go like the majority. But in our Masechta, as we're going to see soon, that the halacha is like Beis Hillel, baskel. Everybody agrees with that, besides Rabbi Yeshua. Okay, so according to Rabbi Yeshua, you could go like Beis Shammai if you feel like. If you want, you go like Beis Hillel. Zok the Gemara. Biboy Seima. 2 lines down. Lilu nishmas imi merosi rusbas Mordechai. Biboy Seima achi kama kol leich de mishkachas tritanoyu triameroi de pliga adodi ke machloikis Beis Shammai Beis Hillel. Basically, we're not saying in the machloikis of Beis Shammai Beis Hillel you could do like Beis Shammai if you feel like. It's just saying anytime you have a machloikis tanoim or if you have a machloikis ameroim, lo le'eve ki kuli damar v'ki kuli damar. Don't be this big makel that grabs on to all the coolest of the world. This rabbi says you're allowed to eat chalav stam, so I'm going to go like him. And this rabbi says like him. Pick a rabbi and go, be consistent. Lo le'eve ki kuli damar v'ki kuli damar. You're loving the chalav stam issue. I eat it, unfortunately. I'm trying to convince myself not to, in public. Yeah. When I was a bacher, I started being Mara Heter. There's nothing to eat in yeshiva, and this and that. Listen, there's nothing like a good Haagen-Dazs ice cream, like Hershey. It's very difficult, very difficult. Actually, in Eretz Yisrael, it's not so hard. Baltaiva. I'm Baltaiva. It's another thing I got to work on. My father-in-law, the surgeon, he took a big step. He doesn't eat chalav stam. A lot of people. And his entire life, he grew up Chalstam. Me, that I grew up in Bnei Brak, who knows? So, Olam Hafuch. I'm not going to tell you the story about the Lubavitcher, my buddy but the Lubavitchers and Chalav Stam, it's the absolute worst. There's no greater Isser in their mind than Chalav Stam. They take it as a super chumrah. I'm not going to go there. Different time. If you want to hear the story on the side, in private, not online, I'll tell you the story. Crazy story. The guy threw up. I gave him a piece of cheesecake by mistake, and he realized he threw it up. It was Nair Vayim. Fine. Either you go with one rav and you do the chumras and the kulos, or you can kula damar and fine. Says the Gemara, but at the end of the day, in this case, right over here, when there's two bends, how did they grab onto Rav and to Shmuel? We just learned, you take one Rav and you go Chumrah and Kula. Whatever he does, you do. You can't take both Chumras. That's wrong. Says the Gemara, Omar Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchok Kule the Rav Avdua. It's not a problem. They actually did exactly what Rav said. Why? We just said that Rav holds that it's a Movim Mefulash. If you have two bends, or one bend, two bends, it's considered a wide open Mavoi into another Rishus Rabbah on both sides, and therefore you have to take drastic action. What's the drastic action? Tzuras HaPesach. But they did more than that. They put a door. So why are you telling me that it's like Rav? I'll tell you why. The halacha is Tzuras HaPesach is enough. You put up a little frame, a flimsy little thing that looks like a door. But Ein Marim Kain, don't tell people about it. That's the halacha between me and you, between me and the Talmid Chachamim. In public, go out and tell everybody, put up a door. So Rav is the one that says put up a door. So when they put up a door in Nahar Da, they actually did exactly what Rav said to do. Yes, halachically, in a sefer, he wrote down in small letters, you don't have to put up a door. You could use a Tzuras HaPesach. But what he told the Olam is, put up a door. I want you guys to be machmer. I don't want any problems coming in. I don't want people to be relaxed. Put up a door. But there's Rav Ada. Rav Ada says that Rav never said to put up a door. Rav said the halacha is you put up a Tzuras HaPesach and you stick with the Tzuras HaPesach. Now what? Omer Rav Shizvi. Kilo yavdino kechumre de beitrei. When don't you do two chumras? When they're in complete contradiction to each other. Kigoin shidra v'gul goyles. So, you remember this chart, right? The second thing over here is Saira, that a bone is metama the size of a barley. A bone of a dead person, if you touch it, even the size of a kernel of a barley, which is nothing. Think about a piece of chont, a tiny barley in a chont, before it's blown up with water. That's how big. But there's another halacha. The halacha is that the bone, the size of a barley, is not metama ba'oil. We said it's only metama b'mago b'mas if you touch it or if you move it. But it doesn't have the power to put tumah in the entire room. What does have power to put tumah in the entire room? There's a few things. If you have most of the bones of the body, or if you have a spine, an intact spine with all the vertebrae, or a skull. So let's talk about the spine for a second. We'll focus on the spine. Because you can figure it out, it's a little easier to realize. You see over here, there's an X. There's one vertebrae missing, right over here. One vertebrae missing. This is a spine of a cow. The Allah says Beis Shammai argue with Beis Hillel. They say that if you have one vertebrae missing, the behema is kosher. In other words, it's a kula, tremendous kula. The animal is not a treifa. One of the 70 treifas of an animal is that it's missing a vertebrae. How many vertebrae need to be missing according to Beis Shammai? 2. 1 is not a problem, kosher. But if you flip that around and you look at a dead person, then it's metama la'oil hameis. That means if one vertebrae is missing from a human spine, it's an intact spine, and then it creates tumah in a house. So that's a tremendous chumrah. That same halacha, one vertebrae, is a massive kula when it comes to eating an animal, because I could eat this animal even though it's not a treifa. It only is missing one vertebrae. On the other hand, it's a tremendous chumrah because on a human spine, it creates tumah ba'ayil. And it's matama everything in the room because it's an intact spine. It's only missing one vertebrae. It's as if it's a full spine. So here you have a kula and a chumrah. Says the Gemara. When you take, if I would take the chumrah of Beis Shammai and say that the house is tamei ba'ayil ameis, and I take the chumrah of Beis Hillel and say that this animal is treif, then I'm doing I'm contradicting myself. I'm using chumras that are in contradiction with each other. I can't be a big tzaddik here. I'm saying that this animal's treif and this house is tamei. That's a contradiction. And if I use the two kulas, then I'm a rasha. Then I'm saying that the house is not tamei and the animal is kosher. Then I'm a rasha. I'm doing two kulas that are contradictory to each other. Says the Gemara, this nan hashidra. So if you have a shidra, a spine, and a gogolis and a skull that are missing, vikama, how much is a chasar b'shidra? In order for it to be missing and not incomplete, it has to be missing two vertebrae. It's enough one. And what about a skull? The size, if it has a hole the size of a drill, it's smaller than a drill. It's the size of a stela. Now you take that exact halacha, a vertebrae and a skull, and bring it over to an animal. So now it's a contradiction. So if it's a contradiction, I can't do both. I can't use both as a contradiction. Not good. Hold on one second. Yeah. Not that much better. Okay. Sorry, YouTube. Crooked. Zog the Gemara, but thanks for, somebody should point it out to me. Especially with my collars like this, something. Says the Gemara, but in our case, it's not a contradiction. It's not a big deal. Be machmer like Rav to say that a bent mavoi is considered mefulish, wide open on both sides of the Rishus Rabbim, and you need to do something about it. And say like Shmuel that if you need to do something about it, you'll put a door up. It's not a contradiction. You're not ruining anything. So you're machmer. You're big tzaddik, you're machmer. You put a door instead of a Trizah Pesach. Nothing happened. You're not eating treif. Before, if you're going to be makel, you're going to be eating treif. Before, if you're being makel, you're saying everything in your house is tamei. Over here, you're not doing anything. As the Gemara, wait a minute, I have a case where there is a contradiction and the person was makbid on everything. So, going back to brachas, and we had this many times, but it's kedai to repeat this. Not that this is important to the sugya, but when you have fruit, you have to take trumas and maisrus. So it starts off, you take first truma gdoila, and you give it to the kohen, it's 2%. Then you go up, the next thing is you give ma'aser rishon, whatever's left over. So you have 98%, you take 10% of that, and you give that ma'aser rishon to a Levi. The third thing you do is, and then the Levi says, he takes trumas ma'aser, he gives from whatever, his 10%, he takes 10% of his 10% and gives it to the kohen. But step 3 is called ma'aser sheni. Ma'aser sheni, this green guy, goes to the owner. The owner takes off 10%, and he eats it himself, but he has to bring it to Yerushalayim. He takes 10% of his fruit, brings it to Yerushalayim, and eats his fruit there. And if it's too heavy for him, he could transfer it into cash, bring the cash to Yerushalayim, and buy a steak. Do whatever he wants with the money over there. That's only in year 1, 2, 4, 5. But in year 3 and 6, we switch out the Meiser Sheni to Meiser Ani. You have to give 10% to the poor person, not to yourself. Oh, so it happened to Maisa, says the Gemara, that Rebbe Akiva was on Shvat, Rosh Chodesh Shvat, in the 3rd year. Now the 3rd year should typically be Meiser Ani, should go to the poor person. But when? When does the year switch? It's not like a typical year that switches on Rosh Hashanah. We're talking about trees. Trees have their own Rosh Hashanah. The first Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah, you probably all learned it in Cheder. The first Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah discusses when is a tree, Tu B'Shvat or Rosh Chodesh. So he happened to be on the first day of Shvat. And he wasn't sure, is the halacha like Beis Hillel or halacha like Beis Shammai? So he did both. So he was on the first day of Shvat, and he wasn't sure if it was Rosh Hashanah for the trees yet, and therefore if it's Rosh Hashanah for the trees, he has to give Meiser Ani, or perhaps it's not Rosh Hashanah yet. Rosh Hashanah is only on Tu B'Shvat, and he's 15 days beforehand, so it's real still in the 2nd year. The 2nd year you give Meiser Sheni. So he gave both, Meiser Ani and Meiser Sheni. He was Machmir. Oh, so you see that Rebbe Akiva was Machmir, even though it's a contradiction. It can't be both. It's either Meiser Sheni or Meiser Ani. How can it be both? Says the Gemara, he did 2 Meisers. Echad k'dei Rebbe Shammai, echad k'dei Rebbe Hillel. So the Gemara, very simple answer. Rebbe Akiva, Gemara Yistapikle. Rebbe Akiva simply didn't remember who says what. He wasn't sure what Beis Hillel said, what Beis Shammai said. He wasn't sure if Beis Shammai said Rosh Chodesh, Rosh Hashanah Leilano is on Tu B'Shvat, or was Beis Hillel that said that? He didn't know, and nobody was there to answer him. So therefore, he did both. And therefore, he grabbed 2 chumras. Says the Gemara. Yosef Rav Yosef Kamei the Ravuna Yosef Kalmar. Rav Yosef sat in front of Ravuna and he said, Omer Rav Yehuda Omer Rav. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav. Again, famous Rav Yehuda was a Talmud of Rav and Shmuel, so he says in the name of Rav. Machloikes b'srat yomikan u'b'srat yomikan. We're going back to a Mavim Mefulash. Where's the picture of Mavim Mefulash? Here's a typical Mavim Mefulash. Basically, a street that goes through and through. And we had one shita yesterday that says you put a tzuras HaPesach down here, and up here you can put a lechi or kaira. Tzuras HaPesach, lechi. And then we had Rav Chananya that says in the name of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, either you need 2 doors or 1 door. But you definitely need 1 door. Machlokes says according to Beis Shammai you need a 2nd door on the other side, and according to Beis Hillel you can put a lechi on the other side. This whole machlokes, says the Gemara, is only bisrat yemikan, bisrat yemikan. Uplat yemikan, uplat yemikan. Sorry, this is not a good picture. Erase this. This is a Rosh Hashanah. Let's go to another picture. Here. This, by the way, comes from the new Sefer, beautiful pictures from Kol HaLashon. You can see up here, there's a highway. Here's a highway, here's the city, and here's just a bunch of dirt. This is a bika. So the Gemara says, if there's a highway here and a highway here, then you have a machlokes, do you put the tzuras HaPesach over here and a lechi over here? It's because there's 2 highways on both sides of the mavui. There's a mavui running right through, and there's a highway here and a highway here. However, avasrati mikan ubika mikan, but if it's like in this picture, where instead of having a highway down here, you have a bunch of open dirt. You see all this area right here, like that. You see the dirt, and here's the highway on the top. Then there's no machlokes. It's only when the mavui is sandwiched by a highway. Highway going this way, highway going that way, or they're both going the same way, but they sandwich the mavui in between. But if there's only one end that has a highway and the other end has a bika, what's a bika? A Carmelis, it's a Rishus D'Rabbanan, it's just a wide open area. It's not a Rishus Harabim, but it's not a Rishus HaYachid, it's a Carmelis. Avos Rati Mikanu Bika Mikan. Oi! Bika Mikanu Bika Mikan. What if it's sandwiched by Bika, Carmelis on both sides? You see this city? Beautiful. This This computer-generated pictures, the beautiful pictures. It might be too big for the screen, but it's nice stuff. There's no doors. Forget about Beisil, Beishamai, one door, two doors. No need for doors. One Tzuras HaPesach, one Lechi, and that's it. So the Gemara asks the very obvious, simple question. Hashta, Srati Mekan, Ubika Mekan. If you tell me in this case, where there's a highway over here, you could get away with a Lechi and a Tzuras HaPesach. So certainly, this case, where it's sandwiched by two bikas. Why do I need to tell me this case? This is completely extra. Even if there's a highway, if you replace one of these bikas with a Rishus Harabim, you could still get away with a Tzuras HaPesach. Certainly, if there's another bika, a Tzuras HaPesach should be okay. Bika mekan, ubika mekan, mibaya. Says the Gemara, you're right. He's telling us another thing. Srati mekan, ubika mekan. If there's a highway on one end and a Carmelis on the other end, it's exactly like as if there's a bika and a bika. It's just telling me one halacha. It's not telling me two halachas. So why did he even mention something about Rosh Hashanah? To tell me, listen, even if there's Rosh Hashanah, I could still put a Tzuras HaPesach even on the other side. You see, in this case, with Rosh Hashanah here and a bika here, where do I put the Tzuras HaPesach? Look what they did. They did very nicely, actually. There's a chachma in what they did. They put the Tzuras HaPesach on the easy way, on the bika side, because that's okay. You don't need to put the Tzuras HaPesach by the Rosh Hashanah side. That goof is a chiddush here. Even if you have Rosh Hashanah, I could put a Tzuras HaPesach wherever I feel like it. On the Rosh Hashanah side, on the bika side, not a problem. Now, here comes a little bit of a sugya. Before we said Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosef is saying over in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, who said it in the name of his Rebbe. Right? Rabbi Yehuda Omar Rav. And now says Rabbi Yosef, I heard something from Rabbi Yehuda without any names at all. I don't know if he said in the name of Rav, I don't know if he said in the name of Shmuel. And it's a big difference. Why? Here's the halacha. Im haya mavui kala l'rechava ein tzarech klum. 6 words. We have this picture from Kol HaLashon. Here's a mavui that goes into a rechava. Rechava is like a yard, like an open courtyard. It's not a private usage place. It's, I forgot what the Arshu calls it, not a backyard, but a back lot, they call it. A back lot. I like that lashon. It gives it a little bit more of structure. If it's a backyard, what do you do in a backyard? You make a barbecue there. There's a lot of usage going on in the backyard. And we're going to be talking about a chatzar. This is different than a chatzar. So here's the picture from, I actually like these pictures better for us. Right now they're, I think, clear, especially for the screen. Here's the same idea, but in color. Here's the mavui, and it opens up into the back lot. Behind the back lot, right over here, is another Rosh Hashanah. So what do I have? I have a mefulosh. I go straight through and through and through, all the way into the Rosh Hashanah. Is this considered a mavui mefulosh? No. Why? Because there's a rechava right over here. The rechava, this back lot, stops the mefulosh. So what Rabbi Yehuda is saying is 2 halachas here. Very important halachas. Halacha number 1 is that even though it looks mefulish and it goes through and through, it's not mefulish because I have a back lot. The back lot allows me to carry my mavui. I don't need to do anything. Ein tzarech klum, says Rabbi Yehuda. I don't need to put a Tzuras HaPesach over there. I could carry my mavui and it's not open, it's not considered open to Rosh Hashanah. Halacha number 2, he tells me, why in the world do Rabbi Yehuda say this case? That there's a back lot. He should be saying this case. Rabbi said, pay attention to this case because we're going to be discussing this case tomorrow as well. Why doesn't he say green? Chatzar. I'll tell you why. Because chatzar will ruin it. You won't be able to walk over it. You won't be able to carry over here. Why? Because people use the chatzar. This is common usage. And there's no eruv between the two. And since there's no eruv between the two, so the chatzar is able to ruin. We're going to discuss it more tomorrow. But if there's an isser for me to go in here, so that isser continues down here, and memela I cannot use this mavoi at all. But Rav Yehuda's case is where the mavoi opens up into a rechava, into a backlot. There's no usage over here. Over here, there's no usage. So therefore, it's mutter for me to walk in here. I don't need an eruv. There is no eruv when it comes to rechava. How can you make an eruv? Nobody uses it. On the other hand, it's strong enough, this rechava, to make a stop. There's an invisible wall. There's no mefulish. You see the lines here? There's a crossway into Rosh Hashanah. It doesn't count. It doesn't ruin it. I can use this mavoi without any fixing. That's the halacha. Omar le'Abai Rav Yosef, Had Rav Yehuda de Shmuel he.
The rechava has a din of a Rosh Hashanah.
No. If it had a Rosh Hashanah of that people are using it, then you would need an eruv for it. It doesn't have a din of Rosh Hashanah. It's not a Rosh Hashanah. It's not, but it has enough power to stop my what do you call it? My mavim a foolish problem. Had Rav Yehuda de Shmueli, says Rav Yosef. Says Abaye to Rav Yosef. I want to say that what Rav Yehuda just said is halacha, that two things: that the rechava has the power to stop the mefulish. It's not a mefulish anymore. It's not a wide open into Rosh Hashanah. There's a stop. That's A. B. This diuk. We have to make a diuk. Meaning, the reason why Rav Yehuda used rechava and not a chatzar, because a chatzar would ruin it. It's only rechava. In other words, a chatzar would not allow me to carry in a mavoi. Since the chatzar joins up to the mavoi, and I didn't make a sheet of mavais, I didn't make an Eruvin chatzeros into the chatzar, I cannot carry at all in my mavoi. That's the only reason why Rabbi Yehuda used the word rechava. Why would he use rechava? It's a weird word, backlot. Use a typical chatzar. If my mavoi goes into the chatzar, and after the chatzar there's a Rosh Hashanah, so he should have said, it's not a mefulish, and I could carry my mavoi. But he didn't say that. He used rechava. Only in a rechava I could carry in the mavoi. In a chatzar I cannot carry in the mavoi. A chatzar ruins it. That could only go, says the Gemara, according to Shmuel. The Shmuel he. Turn to Daf Zayin on the base, sponsored by Shia Greenfield from Green Star Electrical Contracting. We're almost done with him. It's going to be a new guy on the block. Rosh Chodesh is coming up soon. Did Rav. So the Gemara did Rav, Kasha the Rav Betarti. He cannot go according to Rav. Why? The Omar Rav Yirmiyah Barabba Omar Rav. This exact case, that it opens up into a chatzar. What happened? Rav says, a mavui shenifas b'milai, a mavui that broke open. So imagine that there was a wall over here. It's our case that we just discussed, but the Gemara is explaining how it happened. There was a wall over here in the mavui. The wall fell down. And then this also fell down. By the way, this cannot be more than 10 amas. This is not more than 10 amas. These are considered just openings, gaps in a mavui, not a true opening. Mavui shenivras b'malai lechotzer, less than 10 amas. The nivritz lechotzer kenegdoi, and the opposite wall also broke right over here. So now the Rosh Hashanah goes through and through all the way. It's mefulash. Chotzer muteres umavui asur. According to this, we have a major problem. Everything is exactly reverse of what we just said. Rav is saying you could carry in the chotzer, and the mavui is asur. So we understand right now, why is the mavui asur? We're going to understand that the mavui is asur because it's mefulash. Why can't I carry over here? Because this is a Rosh Hashanah down here, this is a Rosh Hashanah up here, and this is called mefulash. And if it's mefulash, you got to do something about it. You have to put a tzursa pesach. You have to do something. There's nothing going on here. There's a little lechi. That's it. So Rabbi says you're not allowed to carry in the mavui. What the Gemara is going to tell us is no. The reason why it still could go according to Rav, says the Gemara in the answer. The reason why he can't carry here is not because it's mefulash, but because he didn't make an eruv in the chatzar. The chatzar is what's ruining it, not the Rosh Hashanah. Let's see inside. Says the Gemara. In this case, chatzar muteres or mavui asur. So first of all, what happened to the fact that anything over here blocks and doesn't make him a foolish? You see, that doesn't count according to Rav. Problem number 2, you're saying that if it's a chotzer, you wouldn't be able to carry in the chotzer. They ruin it for each other. Rav just said you could carry in the chotzer, you just can't carry in the mavui. So we must say this goes according to Shmuel, not according to Rav. Why isn't it different than the first case, where it opens up into what is it called? The back lot. Omarle, so Rav Yosef tells Abaya, you're right, 100%, I agree with you. I don't even know. There was a story, a Maisa Shahaya, Bedura de Ravasa, says Rashi. This is a village of shepherds, right? Ravasa is a shepherd. Dura de Ravasa. This exact story, the Mavoi broke open into a rechava, a backlot, not a backyard, a backlot. The brown guy. And they went to Rav Yehuda, the same Rav Yehuda that we're talking about that said this halacha, but he didn't say if he said it in the name of his Rebbe Rav, or did he say it in the name of his Rebbe Shmuel. And he said, don't worry about it. You don't need a lechi, you don't need a psuras pesach, nothing, zero. And if you're going to ask a big question from what we just said, the Rav says that you cannot walk in the mavui, not a problem. In other words, Rav Yosef agrees to Abaya that this halacha that Rav Yehuda said cannot be going according to Rav, could only be going according to Shmuel. Says the Gemara, no, I have a way out of it. Very simple. Let me explain to you. The reason why I can't walk from the mavui into the chutzner is not because it's a mavui mafulish, not because that I view it as if the mavui goes through and through. There's a Rosh Hashanah on one side. Where's that other one? In this case, okay. The reason why, according to Rav, I can't walk here is not because there's Rosh Hashanah here and Rosh Hashanah here, and I view it as one long mavui mafulish. So what is the reason? Kanchi irvu, kanchi lo irvu. Very simple. If you make an eruv, I can walk in the mavui. If I make an eruv between these two guys, between the chatzar and the mavui, so I can walk here. The first case that we had in Amud Aleph, Rabbi Yehuda's case, he says that there's a back lot, and he says you don't have to do anything. Why? Because there's no eruv when it comes to a back lot. A back lot is it. It's as if there is already an eruv. There is an eruv. Because nobody uses it. It's not used. So if it's not used, so they don't ruin it. You could just walk from Mavi to Rechava. So a Rechava that doesn't have an Eruv and a Chatzar that does have an Eruv, you could walk in the Mavi no problem. The reason why this case Rav says you can't walk in the Mavi is because there's no Eruv in the Chatzar. Very simple. The Rav Namelei Kasha. Kan she'eruv b'nei Chatzar and b'nei Mavi. Kan she'lei irvu. There's simply no Eruv. So why does he mention the word Rosh Hashanah? Who cares? The whole thing is between these guys. Did he make Eruv? Did not make Eruv? Very simple, says Rashi. I'm just telling you another chiddush. Even though there's a Rosh Hashanah here, and many people decide to walk through here, even without permission, let's say, it doesn't ruin it. You're allowed to walk here in the Chatzar. I can make an Eruv in the Chatzar. Don't worry about the Rosh Hashanah. But that's a side point. The point is, I need to make an Eruv. And if you don't make an Eruv, I cannot walk in the Mavui. Tomorrow's Amud over here, the whole sugya, is going to be discussing what was the Havamina and beautiful stuff. Rabbi Isai, Be'ezer Hashem, we'll see everybody tonight on Zoom. Please remember to switch your name to your location. It's the same Zoom as we're doing right now. It's the same link. Tell your friends about it. It's a tremendous, tremendous program. We're going to have so many beautiful speeches from so many different people, even just to get to know each other. It's unbelievable. Just to get to know different people from different states, different countries, it's amazing stuff. And you have Charlie Harari, you have Rabbi Sacha Friend, you have Y.Y. Jacobson, you have Rav Gav, you have Rabbi Ben Shushan from California. Great stuff. Rabbi Isai, trust me, it's kedai. If you have ADD and can't do all 3+ hours, you can do it later.
Don't forget
Reb Nachman Seltzer as the MC. B'kitzur, a lot of nice surprises. So, Oh, is there a surprise for me? That also? Can't wait. Rabbi say it's going to be geschmack. Really, it's going to be geschmack. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, everybody. Shem Alis Mevama Kim Chasicha Adonai. Adonai Shema B'Kol Yitiyah Zbach Yeshavos Nikol Dach Adonai. Mevama Shema Yadonai Miyamoid. Uchaz Lichol Leman Tivorei. Kisa Adonai Kivzon Nafshi Dvar Yicholti. Pshin Adonai Shemim Labayker Shemim Labayker. Chai Yisrael Adonai Kim Adonai Chezva B'Yimei Kedo. Huv Deis Yisrael Mekal B'Yisrael Chari Gavos Yisrael. Shemim Shiv Yom Dibim. Amen. Rabbi said that was no fix. It was up till 2 something in the morning at least. I don't know. I know that he was working on the schedule. It's coming out. So he said, that's because he got 2 hours sleep. You'll have to forgive him for that. Yeah. Sorry. Hey, Shmuel, what's that? I hope no rain. Is there any rain in New York today? How's the weather in New York?
A lot of rain coming up.
No, you're joking.
No way. What are you talking about? Ravali took care of the rain. Okay, where I am, there's rain. Where I am, there's rain. I'm begging you, Ravali, for weeks. Stop and there's no rain. Biggest participation from 11 to sponsor a share. You need to sponsor a share for the tefillah. You can't just say it.
Ooh, Yosef. Reb Ezra Abrams from Australia. You're going to be up. I want to know. You're going to be there or not going to be there? Where is he? He jumped away from my screen.
Look at the participation.
Oh, here he is.
Have a good day, all. Have a great day.
Hold on. What does Ezra say from Australia? It's coming in slow because it's from Australia. Hold on. What? What'd you say?
2 a.m.? 2 a.m.?
I think it's 3 a.m. by you.
3 a.m.
3 a.m. in Australia.
Listen, the truth is, all you need to do is get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. You'll still be you'll have so much more to watch. You don't even have to get up at 3. Yeah. But if you want to see the Siyum is around 4 a.m. by you. 4 a.m.
Thanks very much.
Oh, I'll see you, Rabbi. Rebershi, sei gesund.
What time is the Siyum supposed to be? Like the actual Siyum?
I think it was like an hour in or something.
It's going to be around 9:10, 9:15, the actual sale.
Hour 15 minutes into the program. 4:15 a.m. in Australia.
Wow.
Chapa, ride some sleep. Ezra, go to sleep right now, my friend. Go to sleep. Great day, Reb Bernard.
Rabbi Stefansky,
Who is that? Was that Moshe Apter or Akiva?
That was Moshe after.
Moshe Apter from Toronto. Sei gesund. Have a great day, Moshe.
Montreal.
Oh, Montreal. Sorry, Montreal. Oy. How could I say? No, you're fine.
Rabbi Tversky is from Chicago.
No, he's not. Rabbi Tversky from Chicago?
What would you prefer? Would you prefer that we wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and sit there, exhausted, or wait till 7 o'clock in the morning and watch it on replay?
Wake up early in the morning and be exhausted. What do you think? That's what we do.
I'm doing now. What do you think I'm doing now? 1 o'clock in the morning, working and listening to this year. Gonna be up all night. Yeah. All night. Like
The Olam has to Rabbi said the Olam has to sacrifice. If we sacrifice, you have to sacrifice.
All of us stayed up because there's no Sunday shiur, there's no shiur tonight, so we stayed up to the late one, right? Sunday shiur for you, there's nice afternoon shiur.
Yeah, that's right, Rabbi said no shiur tonight. I forgot to mention no shiur tonight.
Yeah, because again, so I stayed up now till midnight, till 1 o'clock.
All right, you'll have to get up soon. I wanted to ask you, Jay, there was something about you last night. I wasn't sure if it was you.
No, you quoted somebody, you read our email from a guy named Feinstock, you were saying, is that related to you? He says it's my grandfather does the Daf Yomi on.
Right.
I think I know who that is, but it's not connected to me.
Okay, but you do know who it is. Okay.
Who it is.
Okay.
I think you might know who it is.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I think I may know who it is, but it's not connected. I mean, somebody about a bus from the city must be a little bit older than me, but it's not connected